Good evening, everyone, and welcome to regular meeting of Council of the Township of Malahide. It's March 7th, and I'll call the meeting to order at 7:30. Next on the agenda is disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we'll move to approval of previous minutes. Any errors or omissions? Deputy Mayor Widner?
Yes, I don't know exactly the spot, but I see my name was spelled wrong. We just can't have that. Thank you.
I noticed that too, so yes,
I tell
I
you.
think it's been fixed. Any other errors or omissions? Councilor Glinski? Yes.
There used to be approval of agenda minutes. And I don't see it on here, and I haven't seen it for a while. I just didn't know why all of a sudden it got dropped. Not minutes, but agenda.
Right. Clerk Adams, do you want to comment on that? I know from my time of council, it's currently not in our procedural bylaw in the order of business. That item is not there. So I think that's why it's not officially on the agenda.
Even though it had been before.
That I can't speak. I know since 2018, I don't think we've changed the procedural bylaws. I don't know when the last time it would have been on the agenda and as part of the procedure. But probably something to look into. Okay, if there are no other errors or omissions, the motion, please.
That the minutes of the regular council meeting held on February 15th, 2024 be adopted as printed and circulated.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Serna moves. Councillor Lewis seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. Next on the agenda, we have a public meeting. So I'd like to call this meeting to order with the motion, please.
That the public meeting relating to the zoning bylaw amendment application of Ken Drabick and Anchor Farm Limited, authorized agent David Rowe, Co-Civic Planning Solutions, Inc., relating to the property located at Lot 18, Session 8, South Dorchester, Part 2 of RP 11R 100007, former geographic township of South Dorchester, Township of Malahide, known municipally as 48024 and 48028 Wilson Line, be called to order at 7:33 p.m.
Mover and seconder. Councillor Wilson moves, Councillor Leach seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. So this is a public meeting as required by the Planning Act to allow any person an opportunity to make a representation with respect to a proposed zoning bylaw amendment relating to property located at Lot 18, Concession 8, South Dorchester, Part 2 of RP 11R 10007 and known municipally as 48024 and 48028 Wilson Line. Clerk Adams, what method of notice and when was the notice given to the public for this meeting?
Through your worship, the public meeting was advertised in the Express for 2 consecutive weeks on February 14th and February 21st. In addition, affected property owners within 120 meters were sent a notice by mail at minimum 20 days prior to the meeting.
Thank you. Mr. Steele, yes, you are with us. Welcome. Could you provide an overview of the application and let us know if there have been any comments received?
Thank you, Worship. Before council tonight is a zoning bylaw amendment for the social lands at 48024 Wilson Line. The owner operates a truck and trailer repair business with currently work being conducted off-site, and the owners would like to be able to operate the business on the property and are proposing to construct a new 418 square meter building to accommodate a truck and trailer repair use as a home occupation. And it's noted that the proposed zoning amendment does apply to approximately 402 square meters of land on the adjacent farm parcel owned by Anchor Farms. It's intended that approval should be granted by the zoning bylaw amendment that a future lot addition application would come forward for consideration. The county and Malahide official plans permit secondary uses such as home occupations in agricultural and rural areas, subject to certain criteria, including that the home occupation and accessory building is located within the building cluster, as primary uses the same infrastructure as services the primary use, The scale of the home occupation is appropriate and that there be no negative or adverse impacts from noise, dust, odor, or traffic generated and would be compatible with surrounding land uses. Staff have reviewed the application and believe that the proposed use would meet these criteria. And so the application would propose to rezone the lands from currently being zoned large lot agricultural A3, which under staff's review believed to be a mapping error that was previously arise sometime in the past and would be corrected to a more appropriate small lot agricultural A4 zone with site-specific provisions for permitting an increased maximum floor area for the home occupation, as well as a maximum lot coverage for accessory structures of 15.5%, where this bylaw requires maximum lot coverage of 10%, as well as permitting a reduced interior side yard setback of 4 meters, whereas the bylaw requires a side yard setback of 5 meters. And staff have reviewed the proposal and as per discussion provided within the staff's report, the position of the development is appropriate for the subject lands, provided that the provisions proposed within the draft bylaw are implemented and that the application of site plan control takes place to regulate the scale and size of the proposed use. Kettle Creek Conservation Authority has provided comments and stated no objections to the application, and there have been no additional comments from other agencies or members of the public received at the date of the submission of this report. And so in summary, staff recommending that the application be approved, and this time we have take questions from members of council.
Thank you for that. Before I go to members of council, Clerk Adams, have you received any additional written submissions on the proposal?
No, there have been no additional comments received.
And is there anyone attending in person or on Zoom? Would you like to add any comments?
No, just here to answer any questions.
Thank you for that. So members of council, any questions or comments? Deputy Mayor Widner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think this would be a great addition to the community. Truck shops are few and far between, and the more we can get, and local business would be great. So I would totally support this. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Echoed by other members of council. So if there's no further discussion, then please be advised that any person wishing further information on the actions of council regarding the passing of the proposed bylaw amendment should contact the clerk. So we can proceed with the adjournment and consideration of the planner's report with the following motion.
That the public meeting relating to the zoning bylaw amendment application of Kenneth Drabick and Anchor Farm Limited relating to the property located at Lot 18, Concession 8, South Dorchester, Part 2 of RP 11R10007, former geographic Township of South Dorchester, Township of Malahide, and known municipally as 48024 and 48028 Wilson Line be adjourned at 7:39 p.m.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Cerna moves. Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? And that's carried.
That report number DS 2409 entitled Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application of Kenneth Drabick and Anchor Farm Limited, authorized agent David Rowe, be received, and that the zoning bylaw amendment application number D14 Z1223 of Kenneth Drabick and Anchor Farms Limited relating to the property located at Lot 18, Concession 8, South Dorchester, Part 2 of RP 11R10007, former geographic Township of South Dorchester, Township of Malahide, and known municipally as 48024 and 48028 Wilson Line be approved for the reasons set out in this report, and that the Township Council withhold the final passing of the bylaw until the associated consent application for a lot addition is granted conditional approval by the County of Elgin Land Division Committee.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. And Counselor Wilson seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so that concludes the public meeting portion of the agenda. Next on the agenda are reports of departments. This evening, we only have one report from our bylaw enforcement officer, Mr. Miller. Are you on Zoom with us?
Yes, I am.
Great, over to you then. Welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, members of council, for having me here this evening. Through you, Your Worship, before you is the 2023 Bylaw Enforcement Annual Report. It contains high-level statistics for the second half of 2023 related to bylaw enforcement in the Township of Malahide. As you may know, I began as a dedicated bylaw enforcement officer with the Township of Malahide in July of 2023. Prior to my arrival, bylaw enforcement was the responsibility of the chief building official. There were no stats available for bylaw enforcement matters prior to my arrival. It's my understanding in conversations with CBO Sutherland that there wasn't enough time, given the significant demand on his time as the CBO in the bylaw enforcement realm, that being the reason why there's no statistics. I feel like I state this frequently, but it's important for the public to know that the success of bylaw enforcement is measured in voluntary compliance, not through charges. This is achieved through education, collaboration, and enforcement action as a last resort. I am pleased to advise that I was not required to lay any charges in 2023 in order to achieve compliance. Moving on to stats, in the latter half of 2023, there were 40 total complaints received. As you can see from the chart attached in the report, the majority of complaints were related to either zoning, people using land for purposes other than permitted, or for property standards related issues. Those being typically lot maintenance type things. Zoning and property standards comprised over half of total bylaw enforcement complaints for the second half of 2023. Another interesting stat that shows the efficacy of the bylaw enforcement service is the number of days from complaint to resolution. The average number of days from initial response to successful resolution was 3 days. The median number of days from initial complaint to resolution comes in a little lower at 2 days on average. Some complaints take longer to resolve, while others are quickly resolved with a single visit. These median and average numbers show broad trends across various call types, and this is why I've kind of used average and median numbers. Another key performance indicator as it relates to bylaw enforcement activities is the number of files carried over from year to year. It's important that files receive timely attention in order to ensure efficient and effective service provision. When large number of files are carried over from year to year, it indicates difficulty in achieving voluntary compliance and can serve to compound workloads in an environment where there's an increased demand for service. I am pleased to advise that only 4 files out of the 40 that I dealt with were carried over from 2023 into 2024. Based on the reference metrics, the transition to a dedicated bylaw enforcement officer in the Township of Malahide was a success in 2023. I do look forward to continuing service improvements related to bylaw enforcement in 2024. That's all I have for you, subject to any questions that you may have.
Thank you for that. That's an excellent report. It's nice to have that transparency and accountability and being able to track trends. So thank you for that. Comments, questions? Councillor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I basically only had one sort of reoccurring bylaw enforcement thing. It was with a fella down in Mount Salem. I'm not going to get into what it was, but was that one considered a successful conclusion?
So in order to avoid discussing case specific information, it's probably more appropriate for me to follow up in email. All complaints that I had received were tracked, and they are reported. They are included in the reporting.
Okay, I won't get into it.
Probably, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so I'll encourage you to follow up if.
Okay, thank you.
I will say more broadly that there are various different forms of resolution. So resolution could be that there is no bylaw issue. A resolution could be that there is a bylaw issue and that it was successfully brought into compliance. A resolution could be that potentially charges were laid. So there's various types of resolutions, but it essentially what resolution means is that it's an issue that's no longer, I've followed it all the way through to the end and I cannot action it any further. If that helps.
Does that help? Well, so I encourage you to follow up with Mr. Miller. Counselor Cerna.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. I just have a question. I had a complaint one time or an inquiry. If there is a complaint, is it anonymous? Or do they have to give their name when they're making a complaint?
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the councillor. In accordance with the newly passed municipal law enforcement policy, complainants are required to leave their information. This is for me as the bylaw enforcement officer to follow up with the complainant if necessary and garner necessary information that may be relevant to an investigation. All information is kept 100% confidential in accordance with the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. I am bound by that act. So although it's required for the complainant to provide their information to me, it's never disclosed in any circumstance.
Thank you for the question. Any further questions or comments? Counselor Leach?
To you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to thank you for your prompt and thorough action on all of the issues that have arisen and that you've dealt with.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Whitner?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Through you to Stephen. Stephen, this is a great report. I've never seen one like this ever. So you've made a great improvement. It's nice to see the records. You can always tell when you've been someplace because within 2 or 3 days, there's action. So that's great to hear. And it makes everybody a lot happier. So yes, thanks for your attention to these matters and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to work in the Township of Malahide. Everyone's been great to deal with. So I very much appreciate you having me here.
Thank you for that. I also noticed at the end of the report, you mentioned further improvements that you're looking to implement, I guess, in 2024. Is there anything you can share with us, the things that you're working on?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you. One of the things I am looking at is a separation of provisions of the property standards bylaw. I can articulate one of what property standards bylaws are is their enforcement of minimum maintenance standards for property through the Ontario Building Code. In the Malahide Township Property Standards bylaw, we have things in there that are related to lot maintenance. Things like long grass or garbage on property or things like that. What I would like to do, what I will be doing, is bringing forward a report that essentially suggests that we separate the lot maintenance provisions into a standalone bylaw. The reason why I deem it necessary to do that is it doesn't make much sense from an efficiency perspective to go through the provisions of the Ontario Building Code to lay an order related to grass that's a little bit too long or something to that effect. The processes related to property standards in the Ontario Building Code are quite onerous and not an effective way to go about something on a smaller scale. Where they are effective is if there's a dilapidated building or something to that effect. And that is the true intent of property standards bylaws, enforcing minimum maintenance standards for buildings and structures through the Ontario Building Code, not necessarily property related things. And so what I'd like to do is take those property related things and put them into a lot maintenance bylaw. It'd be a lot more effective in terms of achieving compliance. Another thing I am looking at are service enhancements related to animal control. I am capable of performing animal control functions, so we are looking at that as a value-added service to the public. And we are looking at various fees and charges related to the service of bylaw enforcement that can be added in the fees and charges bylaw as a cost recovery mechanism for the service provided.
Right. Sounds like something to be looking forward to. So thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion.
The report number BL 2401 entitled 2023 Bylaw Enforcement Activity Report be received.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Leach moves. Counselor Lewis second. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you again, Mr. Miller. Until next time.
Thank you,
Have a
Madam
nice
Mayor.
evening.
Thank you, members of council.
So this was the only report this evening, so we can move straight to correspondence. There are 9 items. I will highlight in number 1 as part of the AMO update. I don't know if everyone noticed, there is an opportunity for a forum. It's called, I think, the Farmland Forum is next week. You can go in person or online. And the main discussion will be about farmland protection. So since it is a key area of concern in our strategic plan and a priority, and if you'd like to register, I think maybe through the clerk, would that be possible? So I intend to at least pop in. For the online version, you can attend just 1 or 2 sessions. So could be of interest and to members of the public also. That's number 1. I will also highlight number 2, Elgin County. There's a notice of the open house and the public meeting. So this is for the official plan. It's been under review for many years now, so it's finally coming to a conclusion. And as you know, our official plan is tied and rolls up to the county official plan. So I encourage everyone to attend, contribute, participate, hear what others have to say. You can join online as well as in person. Other comments, Councillor Leach?
I would like to support the County of Renfrew and their small and rural and small urban municipalities' affordability of water and wastewater systems, considering that's something that we are also kind of
Mhm.
wrapped up in.
Yes. I can also speak to number 3, which is the correspondence regarding the outdoor swimming pool in Aylmer. So we did receive this correspondence and a number of other inquiries or comments. So if it is council's wish, we can officially respond, but for because we have received a few comments, I wanted to share a few remarks noted here. I can move to my page in the right spot. So I wanted to make sure that, so everyone knows that Malahide shares the view that swimming is an important life skill and that opportunities to learn this skill as well as to enjoy water safely ought to be available to all members of the community. So it's important to note that in the context of what we're discussing and our budget adjustment, that this administrative decision was necessary since the actual mechanism and framework to make the transfer to Aylmer, signed in 1973, were no longer in place. So at this time, it should also be noted that there are no specific impact to services that have been identified. So as a result of this adjustment, so we're not aware of any changes in service or fees at this time. So we will monitor the next steps closely, and we will make decisions regarding how best to support and contribute to recreational services using the guiding principles and the commitments in our strategic plan. So I want to thank everyone who's taken the time to share their comments and concerns. And like I said, there are no changes noted yet, and we will monitor and act accordingly. Anything else? There's also a note, a request for support for the MAC. So I wanted to give a little update on that. So since we received this correspondence, the CEO and myself had a chance to meet with Mr. Lowen just to discuss exactly, because it's all about definition of words, right? So what exactly is meant by support? So we have agreed to have further conversations to together define what the word support would mean collectively for them and for us. And so that if it's council's wish, we could draft a letter, run it by council and work with staff and by their board to see if we can arrive at a letter that would indeed support their endeavor, but in a way that is clear as to what that means for the community, for their partners, and for us. Does that sound reasonable as a next step? So I would propose that we bring back a draft after we've had a chance to have those discussions. Councilor Lewis.
Through you, your worship. Yeah, something like, request of Formaldehyde Township Council backs the Mac Center and looks forward to the Mac Center. Yeah, something along that line would be perfect.
Yes, semantics will be key. Great. Any further comments or questions or any other items of correspondence? And was that sufficient direction, Clerk Adams? We covered a lot.
Essentially, only number 7 is being supported.
7 is supported,
Later, so it doesn't mean anything.
right? And number 3 will send the correspondence, the official statement, just for the record. I wanted to share it with everybody in the community, but we can officially respond to the correspondence received. If that's okay. Counselor Cerna.
Yeah, what are we doing with number 3? We're going to respond to the,
Yeah, just share the remarks that I shared this evening, just officially to acknowledge that we received correspondence.
the guy that, or the person that
Yes,
wrote that.
yes.
Is that the only letter that we received?
As
about-
official council correspondence, yes. So there've been other inquiries in a more ad hoc. I think some of you received inquiries. This one was the only one that was requested to be received as correspondence to council and put in the public
But
record.
nothing else other than somebody calling up a counselor
And staff and.
or the
Yeah,
editorial in the paper. But only one official thing to council.
to date, yes.
Okay. Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that item number 7 be supported and then a letter be sent regarding correspondence item number 3, and that the remaining items be noted and filed.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Lewis moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. Any other business? Deputy Mayor Whitner.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to acknowledge the passing of Jim Shields. He was a former deputy reeve in South Dorchester Township. I believe that was in the 80s. Very dedicated to the community, owned a repair shop, very busy repair shop. Man could fix anything. So I just wanted to pass along our condolences, and he will be missed. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any other business? Counselor Wilson.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I sort of understand I'm not the only one that's had some questions about this. Basically regarding the half load season on the roads. Really didn't have winter this year. Not a lot of frost heave when there's not much frost. So I did get the explanation when I spoke with Nathan, but I think that it's also good that Nathan just, sort of share with everyone what he shared with me. And, it makes sense not to be repealing bylaws to put them back in. The procedure to do it is a little bit much. So if you could share that, that'd be fantastic.
Mr. Diaz.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council. Yes, the half load season is upon us from March 1st, goes until April 30th. And this was again opting into the system through the Highway Traffic Act. And once we passed the bylaw, we officially had opted in. And the only means of exemption is to rescind the bylaw, essentially. the nature of this winter, though it's definitely warmer and there's no frost, does bring this to specific attention that it may not make sense, but the bylaw again was drafted again for generally seasonal weather patterns. And the implication, for instance, for just rescinding the bylaw based on this season may mean, again, demand for having it in future years, and it may cause a bit of confusion. It's a whole system where the OPP follows through to enforce it. And again, a lot of industries are aware of this bylaw. So I wouldn't really recommend to move to rescinding it in with that regard. And it's also in general, again, the idea of who's going to be paying for the cost for the maintenance, right? So yes, it is an impact on business owners to, again, pay a bit more. Maybe it's more tonnage that's moved again in half loads across the roads, but ultimately it helps us to put in a means to limit the deterioration of our roads. And that's a cost that's essentially borne now out of the businesses that choose to move heavy tonnage during this season.
Thank you for that. Any further questions or comments on that? So it is a question that comes up every year at this time, and we do recognize, and as Mr. Diaz said, it is an impact on business, and it's a balancing act with the impact on the assets. There's a cost to this for everyone involved, so we acknowledge that. I guess we can monitor over the long term if there are different trends that emerge in terms of climate, but it's okay. If there are no other business, we can move to bylaws.
That the following bylaw be considered read a first and second time, and that the final passing of the bylaw be held until the associated consent application is granted conditional approval by the Elgin County Land Division Committee. Bylaw number 2408, Dravik rezoning.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Serna moves, Counselor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That's carried. So this means that we're ready to move into closed session for 3 items. The motion, please.
The council move into closed session at 8:03 PM pursuant to section 239-2 of the Municipal Act as amended to discuss the following. 1, a proposed or pending acquisition or deposition of land by the municipality or local board in relation to Port Bruce, section 239-2C. Number 2, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose relating to the planning department, section 239-2F. And 3, training and education for the purpose of educating or training of its members, section 239-3.1, review of the procedural bylaw.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Please, Deputy Mayor Widner moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. Now back in open session. So may I have the resolutions, please?
The staff were given direction by council on the following items that were discussed in closed session: a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board in regards to Port Bruce, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose relating to the planning department, and training and education for the purpose of educating or training of its members in respect to the review of the procedural bylaw.
Mover and seconder. Counselor Serna moves, Counselor Leach seconds. All in favor? That's carried. Next is confirmatory bylaw.
That bylaw number 2409, being a confirmatory bylaw, be given first, second, and third reading and properly signed and sealed.
Mover and seconder, please. Counselor Serna moves. Counselor Lewis seconds. All in favor? That's carried. And adjournment.
The council adjourned its meeting at 10:39 PM to meet again on March 21st, 2024 at 7:30 PM.
Mover and seconder. Deputy Mayor Widner moves. Counselor Serna seconds. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you, everyone. Very productive meeting. See you next time.